Hello and welcome to My Week in Baseball. I'm your host, Phil S-Truth Harrison. You're listening to Season 4, Episode 6. All episodes are available in both video and podcast format at myweekinbaseball.com or subscribe on YouTube at My Week in Baseball. First, thank you to Rose Petal Studios for the logo and artwork created for this show. Learn more at rosepetalstudios.com. And many thanks as well to Ari S-Truth in Nashville for our newly revised intro music. Well, today we've got a lot to talk about. The Mariners catcher Cal Raleigh, category leaders halfway through the season, what really is the obstruction rule, the Rafael Devers trade, the A's Denzel Clarke and his incredible play in the outfield, a pitcher gets beamed during warm-ups, and finally, what is wing foiling? And no, this has nothing to do with baseball. Of course, we'll also have a timely limerick, our baseball limerick, along the way. So let's get right to it. Today's trivia question is, what active major league pitcher, a certain bet to reach the Hall of Fame, has yet to win a game this season? We'll have the answer for you at the end of the broadcast. Next up, Cal Raleigh recently hit his 29th home run. And why is that important? Well, as a catcher, it was historic. It gave him the most home runs by a primary catcher prior to the All-Star break in Major League history. The crazy thing is, though, he just keeps on hitting them. He's hit several over the last few days. He's up to 32 home runs now, halfway through the season. I mean, if he really kept on this pace, and he's only not played, I think, in 2 games so far this year. He's so valuable to the Mariners. If he keeps this up, he would hit 64 home runs, which would break the American League record Aaron Judge set just a few seasons ago. It's really remarkable. It's one of the best seasons ever for a catcher. It's probably top 10, maybe even top 5 all time. It's comparable to players like Johnny Bench, Buster Posey, Joe Mauer in their very best seasons. So let's just take a quick look at a few of his stats, especially for you Mariners fans or anybody who just loves baseball in general or having a great catcher on the team, which really isn't all that common. So this season in 2025, Cal Raleigh is 28 years old and he is setting historical records for himself, certainly, if not for baseball in general. Just to give you a comparison, his wins above replacement a year ago, he played the whole year last year. He played 100, this says, I'm looking at the stats, he played 153 games last year, nearly every game. Last year, for the whole season, he was worth 4.7 WAR. This year, in only half a season, he's already worth 4.2. That's remarkable. So far this year, he has 32 home runs already. Last year, he had 34. So he's easily on a pace to break his all-time home run record. And he really is playing remarkably well, hitting remarkably well. His career batting average is only 227, but this year, he's hitting 50 points above that at 277. His career on base percentage, 310, which is actually slightly below average. But this year, 382, more than 70 points above his career average. He's slugging 170 some points higher than his career slugging. And of course, his on-base plus slugging is over 1, which is remarkable. Hardly anybody achieves that other than a handful of players like Judge and Ohtani, maybe Juan Soto. Anyway, his OPS plus for the year, on-base plus slugging, 198, 98% better than league average. And as far as I can tell, that is not a position-adjusted statistic. So that means 98% better than all hitters, not just catchers. I'm sure he'd be head and shoulders above a typical catcher. Some really great numbers, and that's the offensive side, right? He's a key part of this Mariners lineup and why they are doing as well as they're doing this year. But defensively, he's terrific. He's got to be the best catcher in the game. Last year, not only did he win a gold glove. He won the platinum glove, the best fielder of all positions. So we're talking about an incredible player on both sides of the ball, the likes of which we have not seen in a very long time. Next up, leaders at the halfway point. So as of this last week of June 2025, we are exactly halfway through the season. Most teams have played 81 games, which would be half of the typical 162 game season. A couple teams might have played 80, maybe you've played 82. You're right around there. So you could take any stats that you're looking at individual people, individual teams as you want to, and just double it. And that would be, if they played on this pace, of course, that's what they would do for the year. But let's just take a look at a few of those things. First, offensively, OPS, on base plus slugging, is typically the way, I think if you're looking at a single number, if you're not looking at WAR, on base plus slugging is a really good number. And your top few players there are Aaron Judge. Number 2, I mean, you expect Aaron Judge to be there. And I'm talking all of baseball, not just the American League now. Number 2, all of baseball, Cal Raleigh. We just talked about him for the Mariners. Number 3, Shohei Ohtani. You'd expect him to be up there. Number 4 is also a surprise, the Dodgers catcher, Will Smith, who's having a fantastic season and hitting .325 right now. And to round that out, number 5 is James Wood, the young outfielder for the Washington Nationals. Those are your top 5 OPS players so far in 2025. I'm going to take a quick look at a couple other stats that are just fun. Home runs, Cal Raleigh, 32. Aaron Judge, 28. Ohtani is now in the National League. He leads the National League with 28. And the surprising former Tiger and current Arizona Diamondback, Eugenio Suarez, is number 4 in the league with 25 home runs. If you'll remember, earlier this year, he had a 4 home run game. Eugenio Suarez. Anyway, and the 5th place, Kyle Schwarber, the generally plays DH for the Phillies. So those are your home run leaders. Batting average, Aaron Judge in the American League, .361. Jacob Wilson's number 2 in the majors, .345. That's a shortstop for the Athletics. He is having a tremendous season. He's got a lot of competition at shortstop for the All-Star game, though. I'm quite sure he'll make the All-Star team. Whether he'd be a starter is maybe not likely, even with those kind of stats. Surprising, the next best hitter, these are all so far American League hitters. Jonathan Aranda is the first baseman for the Tampa Bay Rays, and he is having a breakout year at .329. And then leading the National League in hitting, the Dodgers catcher Will Smith at .325. Number 5, Jeremy Pena, the shortstop for the Houston Astros, batting .324. So those are your top batting average, top OPS, top home run. A lot of the offensive stats. It can be fun to look at stolen bases too. So who are those? Jose Caballero of the shortstop for the Tampa Bay, 29. O'Neill Cruz, center field for the Pirates, 26. Pete Crow Armstrong of the Cubs, 24. Louis Robert Jr. of the White Sox, 22. But he's having an abysmal season with a 185 batting average, .270 on base percentage. Ooh. And Victor Scott, the second, who's an outfielder for the Cardinals, also has 22 steals. So those are your stolen base leaders. You know, the last thing, and I actually really like on base percentage, because oftentimes the people with high on base percentage are, of course, the sluggers, because they will be pitched around. They will sometimes be intentionally walked. But it's also a way to look for those players that can be underrated in some of the other stats. If you're a table setter, if your job is to get on base, you might have some other stats that aren't quite as strong, but you could have a good on base percentage. So we've got Aaron Judge, Will Smith, Jonathan Aranda, and number 4, an on base percentage. And we're going to talk more about him in a minute. He is a good hitter and a home run hitter, but is Rafael Devers. At .396 on base percentage, coming in at number 4, and then Kyle Tucker for the Cubs coming in at number 5. When I look at this list, the one I actually really wanted to point out is number 8. It's another Mariner, J.P. Crawford, the shortstop of the Mariners, has a .392 on-base percentage. He's easy to overlook because he doesn't have power. He's got 6 home runs and only 10 doubles and 5 stolen bases. But he gets on base a ton, and his strikeout to walk ratio is almost identical. 50 walks, 59 strikeouts. So, I mean, it's a lot of strikeouts, but that's a pace for 100 walks, too. 100 walks. So J.P. Crawford, a great table setter for the Mariners, and I don't want to forget people like that. Another one who I would consider kind of a table setter, not a power hitter per se, is that shortstop for the A's, Jacob Wilson. It's mostly tied up in his batting average, but he does have a .387 on-base percentage. He comes in at number 10. Number 11 is the surprising Gleyber Torres of the Tigers, who I think has a good shot at making the All-Star team. Last I checked, he was leading second baseman in voting, and he's been terrific for the Tigers this year. That's plenty. I'm probably going on too much about the hitting, but there's some fun things to look at. We're going to look at a little bit at the pitching side right now. Who leads the major leagues in strikeouts at the moment? It's Garrett Crochet, the pitcher that the Boston Red Sox got in the offseason from the Chicago White Sox. So the Red Sox pitcher, Garrett Crochet, leads all the majors at 135 strikeouts. So that's 270. If you translate it, that's pretty darn good. Let's look at a couple of other things. Earned run average, probably more important than wins and losses. Starting pitcher with the best earned run average right now is Hunter Brown of the Houston Astros, an earned run average of just 1.74, followed by Max Fried of the Yankees, who's 10-2 and has a 1.92 ERA. That's fantastic. Garrett Crochet then is third. Jacob deGrom, who when he pitches, he's great, and it seems like this year things are coming together for him. He's 8-2 with a 2.08 ERA, and then coming in fifth place. This is all for the majors, too. I don't tend to break things down by league. I've probably expressed that belief before, but I'm not too big on the differences in league. They seem really more arbitrary now, so American League, National League. It seems to me it matters more where you are in the MLB standings at this point. But coming in at number 5 in pitching, Paul Skeens of the Pittsburgh Pirates, 2.12 ERA, who was fabulous as a rookie, won Rookie of the Year last year. But his record is 4-7 because he gets such abysmal run support. Tigers fans probably wonder where Tarik Skubal is. He's number 7 in ERA, 2.29. And if you're Red Sox fan, I don't know if you still care about Chris Sale, but certainly if you're a Braves fan, you do. And he's number 10 in the majors with a 2.52 ERA. Wins, losses, I know those don't mean a lot, but Max Fried has 10 wins. Carlos Rodon, 9. Tarik Skubal, 9. Those are some of the top major leaguer pitchers in wins. I also like to look at who's leading in innings pitched. I think that's certainly for durability. It's Garrett Crochet with 109. So you really, you're talking about that's a little over 200 innings, which is really good. But certainly in, past years, we've seen guys who could be in the high 200s, might even hit 300. I don't know. It seems we just don't pitch as deep into the games generally. He's had 17 starts, Garrett Crochet. Max Fried, 108 innings. Logan Webb is third for the San Francisco Giants. Paul Skeens of the Pirates, again, he is fourth. And then Spencer Schwellenbach of the Atlanta Braves is fifth in innings pitched with 103. Really, he's tied with Framber Valdez of the Astros at 103. So those are your top 5 innings pitched leaders. And what else would I look at as a pitcher? I mean, there's all kinds of stats. I guess saves, again, probably don't matter that much, but they're still kind of fun. Who do the teams rely on? There's a tie in the majors right now, but they're 2 different leagues. So if you want to do the league breakdown, Carlos Estevez is 22 saves for the Kansas City Royals. That would lead the American League. Robert Suarez also has 22 saves for the San Diego Padres. That would lead the National League. And then you've got Josh Hader with Houston, 21. Emmanuel Clase, who you expect to see up there, the closer and best reliever for Cleveland with 18. then you've got a tie with a couple other guys. Kyle Finnegan of the Washington Nationals, surprisingly, with 18 saves, and then Trevor McGill of the Brewers, also 18 saves. And you know what? There's several more. Andres Munoz of Seattle, who has yet to lose a game. He's 3-0 with 18 saves and a 1.21 ERA, and tied with Emilio Pagan of the Reds. So that's that. Let's see. What else would I look at? Probably WHIP, walks and hits per innings pitched. The leader in that in the major leagues, Tarek Skubal, 0.87. Then Jacob deGrom, Joe Ryan of the Minnesota Twins, who probably is underrated. He's 8-3 with a 2.86 ERA. He's number 3 in WHIP. Hunter Brown of the Houston Astros, and then Paul Skeens coming at number 5. So you're hearing a number of those names multiple times, but those are some of the leaders at this point, the halfway point in the season. So next up, well, this is about the Tigers being the first team to win 50 games. One thing that I found really interesting about what they're doing this season, I get this information from Ed Eagle of MLB's The Lineup newsletter, so I want to give him credit for that. But what really has made a difference to them is base running. And the curious thing is about this, they're near the bottom of the league in stolen bases. They're not a slow team, but they're not an exceptionally fast team. However, everybody on the team can run to some extent, and they do. And they use this as sort of the image of the team. This is who we are. We take the extra bases. So the Tigers lead the league in going from first to third, in going from first to home, in going from second to home. All those things, that extra base type thing that you could think of, they're very aggressive, and it really does pay off. They take the extra base more than half the time, 54% of the time, they take an extra base when they have an opportunity to do so. The Brewers are the next best team, and they're only 48%. So there's a pretty big gap there between the Tigers and the next best team. And the average, the major league average for taking an extra base, of say going from first to third, only 42%. So they're far above that. So kudos to the Tigers. Congrats on being the first team to 50. And it's really exciting to see a team that runs like that. That makes a lot of the plays fun. Sometimes they're thrown out, but mostly they are not. So it's worked out really well. Next up, earlier in June, Denzel Clarke of the Athletics makes an over-the-wall catch of a would-be home run that was hit by the Angels' first baseman, Nolan Schanuel. It's really, I've watched this now several times, and Clarke is an amazing defender. If you haven't heard about Denzel Clarke yet, you will be hearing more about him. So this play, as I described it, he plays center field for the A's, and this catch he makes off of the Angels, he's running back to the wall. He makes a backhanded grab as he jumps up on the wall, and he uses his hip. Let's see, I got to think about which hip that is. I don't remember which hip he's rotating on. He's rotating on his hip, and he uses his hip as the swing point, jumps up, hand on the wall, right hand on the wall, must be his right hip. Hip on the wall, uses that to pivot so that he's hanging over the wall into what would be the stands or maybe it's the bullpen, and holds his glove out. Let's see, he's right. Gotta think he's right-handed. He's got the glove on his left hand. He holds his glove out like this and backhand catches the ball. So it really is a terrific play. I've seen home runs stolen before, and I'm sure you have too, but not like this. His defense continues to be amazing. He won the play of the week for that play. But get this, not just one play of the week. He's won the play of the week 4 weeks in a row now. This guy is an incredible defender. He already has defensively, statistically, plus 8 defensive runs saved in just half a season. I mean, that would be a very good fielder in a full season. His range factor, the number of balls that he gets to per 9 innings, is close to 5, 4.72. The league average is 2.7. So by my math, he's actually getting to 65% more balls than a typical center fielder. And the other thing is, in outs above average, he's in the 99th percentile. So this guy, he's off the charts good as a defender. He's certainly a potential Gold Glover. Really, from what I've seen and what I've been reading about him, it's hard to believe that he would not win a Gold Glove. And I would urge you to look up some highlight reels. It's Denzel Clarke, and that's Clarke with an E on the end. So next up, well, viewers of this show and listeners, you know that I love rules. So recently, a situation came up when Red Sox manager Alex Cora was ejected for arguing this call, even after the umpires conferred on the play. So the play happens, a call is made. He's like, that isn't right. The umpires confer, and they go, no, we're going with that. And he's just livid, and he is tossed out of the game. But here's what happened. It has to do with the obstruction rule. So let me set the stage for you on what's going on. The Red Sox end up on the wrong side of a double play. Their batter hits a grounder to short. There is already a runner on second. No runner on first, though. So the runner on second could stay put. But he's got a pretty big lead when the ball is hit. So rather than holding up, which he might do, or going back to second base, what he might do, he breaks right away for third base. The shortstop fields the ball, and instead of going for the sure out at first, he throws to third. The Red Sox runner's tagged out at third base. A good play on defense by the shortstop for the Angels. Then the third baseman fires back to second base because now the runner who had originally got to first decides, hey, they're trying to get the guy out at third. They got him in a rundown. I'm going to take off and get to second. But they throw the ball to Luis Rengifo for the Angels covering second base. And Rengifo does, and if you watch this on the replay, he does put his leg down briefly in front of the bag. And this is where the potential interference factor comes in. He puts his leg in front of the bag as the runner approaches, but it's not really close to being safe, and he's tagged out at second. So I think there are two key factors. Leg down makes you think interference, and also where is the runner and what's the situation. So this is where Cora goes, that's obstruction. Runner should be safe going to second base. Not ruled that way. He's tagged out. So let me read you what the rule actually says, and at least what I could gather about why the umpires called it the way they called it. The MLB rule for obstruction says, obstruction describes an act by a fielder who is not in possession of the ball, and Rengifo was not in possession of the ball or in the process of fielding it. Now that I think you could question. I think you could say he was in the process of fielding it. Maybe not, but I think you could say that. And that he impedes the base runner's progress. So you don't have the ball yet, or you're not in the process of fielding it, and you're impeding the runner's progress. I mean, this can happen on calls at home plate as well. And then it goes on to say, if a play is being made on the obstructed base runner, it was, the ball is ruled dead and the umpire can place all runners on the base he determines they would have reached without the obstruction. And I think that's part of the thinking here. What base would these guys reach? And this is what the umpires ruled. He would have been out anyway. He was not close enough to second base. The possible obstruction by Rengifo did not prohibit the runner from getting to the bag. He's not out because of that. He's kind of out as an aside. He would have been out anyway. And that's how the call gets made. So it seems like it's a guidance rule. And I think the umpires used their discretion, and they talked about it after the play to decide if the call was right. I review it. I can see the argument. The leg is there. You could say it was obstruction, but truly I get why the call was made the way it was. I'm going to say the umpires were correct. You might have a different point of view, but I love that kind of detail on these somewhat obscure rules, and plays happen. You're like, wait, what happened on that call? So next, our Blimerick that we have every episode. This is our baseball limerick, and it is a tribute to the obstruction rule. So here we go. I might be obstructing a base. Blocking the bag, there's a case. But the runner's clearly out, no matter what it's about. So my defense caused no disgrace. Next up, the Devers trade. If you're a Red Sox fan or a Giants fan, you certainly know about this one. It was a shocker, and this is one of the top hitters in baseball, traded unexpectedly far before the trade deadline. The trade deadline is around the end of July, and this happened kind of middle to later June. So you're a good month plus ahead of the deadline. And by my calculations, he's one of the top hitters in baseball. Rafael Devers, I look at it and say he's in the top 4 or 5%. And that's if I just really look at the one category, which is OPS, on base plus slugging. He's 18th. And I figured there are 390 major league position players. So that's like 13 position players in the league in each team who are position players. Not all of them are starters, of course, but times the 30 teams. Anyway, that's how I come up with it. And I figure that's kind of in the top 4 or 5%. But he's easily a top 20 hitter, and he maybe is better. I think a lot of people would say he's probably a top 10 hitter. Anyway, just a year or so ago, he signed a 10-year contract for roughly $31 million a year to presumably stay in Boston. He's like a cornerstone player. Boston had, in recent years, they let Mookie Betts get away in a trade that didn't work out so well for them with the Dodgers. And other players have gotten away as well. Their star shortstop in recent years went to the Padres, although that one turned out okay because he hasn't played particularly well. But here's what happened. So Devers was traded from the Red Sox to the San Francisco Giants for 4 players, 2 major leaguers, and we'll talk about them in a few minutes, and 2 minor leaguers. Now, Boston fans seem to hate the trade, and I recently met one on a trip to San Francisco when the Red Sox were in town, and you may notice I am wearing a Giants jersey that I had to get while I was at the game. I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. I talked with a Red Sox fan who was in town, and he was just couldn't believe it. He saw me with the Giants jersey on. We were having breakfast like the next day. He saw me with the Giants jersey on. He said, "Well, congratulations to you guys." So anyway, I had to tell him I was really a Tigers fan, but I happened to be in town for the game. At the same time, the Giants fans seemed to really appreciate him. I was there in I believe it was his second game as a Giant, and the fans were very appreciative and applauded when Devers came to the plate. But there's some interesting things about this. Some of these you probably already know, but I really felt like one thing that was curious to me is that he was dealt from a team, and part of the issue here, really, this is how this all came about. He was the third baseman for the Red Sox. He was supposedly the third baseman for time to come. He wasn't the world's best fielder, and it was assumed, I believe, by everyone, I would think even him, that at some point later in his career probably ends up playing DH. But it was curious. So the Red Sox signed a top third baseman, Alex Bregman, in the offseason, and they asked Devers to move to designated hitter, and he was not happy. He didn't want to do it. Third base was his position, and they never talked to him about it ahead of time. It seems like they really, from a personnel point of view, they more treated Devers like he was an asset to the team, and they didn't treat him like a person. And I think that's really, really what got him in trouble here. So then their first baseman, the Red Sox first baseman, Tristan Casas, gets hurt. He's out for the whole year. And then they're like, hey, how about you play first base? And then he was just incensed. He's like, you already asked me to switch out of my normal position, and now you're asking me to switch again. I am not happy. They sent the owner of the team, flew to meet them, I think, in Kansas City for an away game to try to smooth things over. I think things got better, but they didn't really smooth over. And I think they felt like they had this big contract with a guy who they were having some internal issues with, where the front office certainly was conflicting with a star player. And my understanding is that the Giants reached out kind of just on the side. They maybe were inquiring about somebody else. And in a text message from Buster Posey, I believe, to one of the top officials for the Red Sox, something to the effect of, hey, it's probably not worth it to inquire about Devers too. And then a few days later, they got back and said, well, yeah, maybe, what were you thinking? And so that's kind of, I think, how the trade started, was really kind of a casual texting back and forth. But the curious thing to me, and this is where I come back to this, so then he gets traded to the Giants, but the Giants already have one of the best third basemen in baseball in Matt Chapman. So we're certainly not going back to play third base. And they had a good DH already in Wilmer Flores, who is a good hitter. He's not like a top 10, top 20 kind of guy, but he's a good hitter. He's not bad in that spot. And their production at first base has been abysmal. So here's the interesting thing. He gets traded to the team, and he played DH in the game I was in. And as far as I know, he's been playing DH so far. But they took him aside, and they said, hey, we love having you here in the Giants uniform. This is going to be great. We really want you in the lineup. And hey, let me just show you this chart. And they showed him how poorly they were doing at production at first base. And he agreed that he would start taking grounders at first. Now, it's going to be a long road. I don't think he wasn't a great fielder to begin with, but I'm hopeful that will work out and he will be able to pick up first base eventually for the Giants. Maybe later this year, I don't know. That remains to be seen. But it just feels like it was an icebreaker. I think he feels like he's on a team where he's appreciated now. Buster Posey said he's one of the dudes, and I think by that he really meant one of the best players. And you've got to treat him as a human being, and I think that's what happened here. I think that's where the Red Sox didn't handle it the way they could have. And it's too bad. It's too bad to have seen that happen. But I am happy for the Giants, for sure. One thing I think might have helped in the transition, in the interim, after kind of this controversy in Boston, and right around the time of the trade, Big Papi, star, former designated hitter for the Red Sox, he commented something he was asked about, and he just said something about, hey, as you get older in the game, you reach a certain level of maturity, and at some point you begin to understand the way things are. And it was to the effect of that really, you're the player, but really the team is in charge of where you play and when you play, and you learn to be a little bit humble in that regard. You're making a lot of money to play the game, and you approach it a certain way. So anyway, I'm optimistic. I think things will work out for both sides eventually. Kyle Harrison was the key player traded back to the Red Sox. He's a left-handed throwing pitcher, and he's very young. He was a third-round draft pick, if I recall, from the Giants. And he's been okay, and I think he will get better. The Red Sox sent him to AAA Pawtucket, where I believe he is right now. But he has pitched on the Giants in the majors in parts of 3 years now. He's 9-9 with a 4.48 ERA, but he's only 23 years old. So he's got a lot of room for improvement. He was one of the higher draft picks, and in the minors, I think this is something people really like. His strikeouts per nine in the minors, 14.4 across all his levels in the minors. 14.4 strikeouts per nine. That's incredible. In the majors so far, it's been just right around 9, 8.8. Anyway, I think he's going to end up being good. It's going to take a few years down the road to tell if that works out. I also think Jordan Hicks, which was another pitcher they got, a right-handed pitcher, is a little bit older. He's 28. He has not been good as a starter, and San Francisco tried to make him a starter. He'd always been a reliever. He's been very mediocre for the Giants. He had a 4.83 ERA in 2 seasons, 7.9 strikeouts per nine. But I think that as a reliever, he's going to be much more successful. He was on the St. Louis Cardinals for portions of 5 years and was pretty successful as a reliever. I think we're going to see that he becomes one of the kind of leverage guys in the Boston bullpen, maybe even later this year. And then they got a couple of young guys. James Tibbs is one of them, who was a first-round draft pick by the Giants just last year. So they got the Giants' first-round draft pick from a year ago. Some people might not be that high on him, but I think this guy is going to end up being good. It's hard to look at college numbers and know he was so good in college at Florida State. In the minors so far, he has played just 2 seasons, 400 plate appearances, 14 home runs, and a 355 on base percentage, 249 batting average. So it means he's taken his walks, got some power. I think he could be a good player, outfielder, first baseman, and they had one other minor leaguer who was thrown into the deal as well. I don't know as much about him. That was Jose Bello. Anyway, I think it's going to work out, but it's going to take time. And if the Giants actually make the playoffs this year, or really in the next couple of years, as long as Devers ages reasonably well and his bat stays strong, I think it's okay. It's a 10-year contract. What, about a year and a half or so is up? They've got like 8 or so years to go. It may not age well. Devers will be in his middle, late 30s by the time the deal is over. We'll see what happens. But I think it could end up working out for both teams, and I hope that it does. Next up, Ryan Weathers, a recent game on June 7. I don't know, you may not know about Ryan Weathers. He's a starting pitcher for the Miami Marlins. And I was clued into this by somebody in our fantasy league who happened to post that this player was on their fantasy team, and they happened to be watching the game. And this is a warm-up before the game. This is so strange. During a warm-up, typically when you end the warm-up, it's very common for the catcher to throw through. After the last pitch, he throws through to second base, and that's the end of the warm-up. And that is exactly what happened on this day, except the catcher threw the ball, Weathers turned, and it hit the top of his head, knocked his cap off, and he fell down on the ground. I mean, it's not funny. It's unusual. And you watch it and you're like, oh my gosh, that's scary. He could have been really hurt. He threw some more warm-up pitches and they let him pitch. He did come out after 3 innings and he did not pitch well in those 3 innings. He just said he was feeling off and they were doing it for precaution. From what I can tell, he is okay and there don't seem to be any lasting effects, but such a bizarre thing to get bopped in the head by your own catcher at the end of a warm-up. So we hope that Ryan Weathers is back to normal and can pitch effectively in the next game. And also, thoughts go out to the catcher because, gosh, that's a tough thing, and that would probably stick with you that had happened. So next up, our trivia answer. So we're almost to the end of today's broadcast. Thanks for sticking with us. I'll remind you of the question. What active major league pitcher, a certain bet to reach the Hall of Fame, has yet to win a game this season? The answer? Justin Verlander, who was just like 38 wins, I think that's right, away from 300. He signed with the Giants this year for $15 or so million, a one-year deal. And I think the idea was, of course, he's going to be, probably not our number one starter, but probably our number two starter. And he just hasn't been that way. He hasn't really been awful, though. He's probably been more like a number four starter. But he's winless. He's had 12 starts. He's 0-5 with a 4.5 something ERA, which is certainly not Verlander-like. And I did intentionally go to the particular game I went to, Giants jersey again, to see him pitch. It was his first game back after an injury. He pitched almost 5 innings. I think it was 4 2/3. They were going to limit him to 80 pitches. He got to the last batter and walked him. And that was it. And they pulled him out because he was over the 80 pitches. I think if he'd gotten that out, he would have at least finished the 5 innings. He really pitched reasonably well. He gave up a run in the first inning, but then settled down. And his fastball was hitting 95 miles an hour. It was one real mistake pitch. There was a 3-run homer. And that was the difference. And he had 1 unearned run in there. So he gave up 4 total runs, 3 earned runs. Anyway, the reason I bring this up, and he's the answer to today's trivia question, is he's not pitching great, but 12 starts, 4.5 ERA, and you're playing on a team that's a contender. This isn't like a bad team. This is a decent team, a good team, a team that has been in first place for a day or two earlier in the season. But he's getting one of the lowest levels of run support in baseball. It's approximately like 2 runs a game. They're just not scoring. So you can give up 4. He could pitch 5 or 6 innings. It doesn't matter. They're still going to lose, right? He's not going to pick up that win. And he had 2 leads earlier in the year that might have led to victories, but in both cases, the bullpen lost the lead. Now, that happens, and there are a lot of no decisions in baseball, especially these days. You don't pitch deep into the game. It's harder to pick up a win, but we'd really like to see him start to get a few of those. The answer to today's question, Justin Verlander. And just as a side note, it was my first time in Oracle Park. It is a beautiful park. It's a beautiful setting. If you get a chance to go to San Francisco, maybe you're a fan, maybe you've already been there. But it sits right on the water, and there's the famed MWiB Cove just beyond the right field stands. Actually, there's a little ferry dock there, so ferries can park just outside there and let fans off if you're coming from Oakland or farther like that. One thing that I thought was fun, I took a water taxi to the game. So just an individual, like taking a taxi cab, but this is a boat. And we went from the Embarcadero area, which isn't that far away, but it was just a beautiful ride under the Bay Bridge, and they dropped us off near the stadium. It was so fun. And there are lovely views in the stadium, especially if you're seating up high. Now, we had a lower level seat, and one of the staff people suggested go up top and get your picture taken up there because you've got a great view of the harbor. You can really look down, see the waterfront, MWiB Cove, the whole thing. I would say the only thing is I wouldn't sit in the same area we sat in, which was lower box 105, I believe was the number of the section. The trouble was that we were kind of in the middle. We weren't right on the edge, and we're 20 or so rows back. But we were too close to the left-hand aisle because people kept getting up all game long, going up and down the aisle, and it really was distracting and blocking the view for a portion of the game. So I would either sit up higher, where I don't think it would be an issue, or I'd sit as far away from an aisle as possible that might potentially block my view. But San Francisco as a whole is great. The cable cars, Chinatown, views of the bay, and the Crissy Field area where people were doing, and this is the last part of today's episode, where people were wind foiling. So that's what is wind foiling? Wind foiling it's kind of like, I would say it's kind of like kite sailing. It's kind of like windsurfing, but they call it wind foiling. So the two things are different. One is you're holding onto a bar with a kind of a kite-like structure on it, but you're holding onto it. as you're on this board. And then the board itself has what's called a hydrofoil. So the bottom of the board, when the wind picks you up, the board itself lifts up out of the water, and this hydrofoil fin, stays in the water to keep you balanced. It was really fun to watch. I don't think I'd ever try that myself, but if anybody asks you what wind foiling is, now you know. You're holding the kite-like structure and you're on a board that's got a hydrofoil, a fin that comes out from the bottom. So that's all for today, my friends. Join us next time because honestly, what can be better than talking baseball? As always, I'm your host, Phil S. Harrison. We'll see you next time on My Week in Baseball.